Hi, 7:30, right on the dot. Much last night. Wonder who will be joining me tonight to read another chapter of Seekers. So we finished Rusa in the Bear Bowl last night. And tonight we're going to talk about Toklo. Okay. Going to wait 1 minute here and help Liam out. He's trying to get online here. Oh, hi, Madison. Let's see. That's Dublin again, if you can hear him over there playing with his toys. Okay. Oh, hey, Noah's here too. Yay. All right. Hopefully Liam can get on. He's trying to get on. Maybe we'll have to this out at school tomorrow. All right, so we're going to read Toklo. Just want to show you a picture of Toklo there if you don't have your own book. And so here we go. Toklo crouched in the long grass. All around him the trees waved softly, and he could feel the breeze ruffling his shaggy brown coat. Toklo opened his mouth and breathed in the musky smell of prey. He switched his ears at the sound of snapping pine needles and let his breathing slow down until it matched the sighing of the wind. Is the wind really sighing? Or is that personification? I'm thinking. Then, with lightning quickness, he charged, sinking his claws into rabbit flesh. Ooh. The creature squirmed and flailed, trying to get away, but Toklo's long, razor-sharp claws pierced its fur and pinned it to the ground. With a fierce snarl, the grizzly bear cub sank his teeth into the rabbit's neck. Toklo! Toklo, move! His mother's voice jerked Toklo's attention back to the real world. He let go of the log he'd been pretending was a rabbit and looked up. Haha, that's funny. I was feeling bad for that rabbit. A fire beast was charging straight at him. Hi, Abby. Glad you're here. So I'm wondering, how old do you think Toklo must be? Any ideas? Okay, think about that. Toklo scrambled backward as fast as he could, making it to the nearby grass just as the fire beast roared past, missing him by only a few paw lengths. Horrible black smoke filled the air as it shot by, spraying brown slush from the puddles over his fur. Fire beast. You know how the bears see things differently and have different names for things than humans. I wonder what the fire beast might be. Blech! Toklo spat, rubbing his face with his paws. The taste of the fire beast's fumes was all over his tongue and up his nose. For a moment he couldn't smell anything except the beast and burning. Toklo, you troublesome cub! His mother lumbered over and cuffed him on the head, making his ears ring. How many times have I told you to stay away from the black path? You could have been killed. Also wondering about that black path. What could that possibly be? I could have scared away the fire beast, Toklo muttered. I've been working on my angry face. See? Urgh. He raised himself on his back legs and bellowed, baring his sharp teeth. Nothing scares the fire beast, Oka snarled, and you'll never be as big as they are, so don't even think about fighting them. Toklo wished he could be that big. Then nobody would ever scold him or tell him what to do or make him eat dandelions. He'd been following his mother through the valley all day, and they had barely found anything to eat. Although the season of fish leap was almost here, drifts of snow still covered the ground around the mountains, looking from a distance like piles of white fur on the rocks, but here and there it was melting, revealing patches of dirt and feeble bits of grass where snowdrops and dandelions poked through. Abby, you think he's about 5 years old? Okay. Was that because his imaginary game he had going? That's what kind of clued me in. Why can't you be quiet and obedient like your brother? Oka grumbled. She swung her head around to look at her younger son huddled beneath a tree. Obedient? Toklo scoffed. You mean weak. Toby's sick, Oka growled. He needs food. Gather some dandelions for him and eat some yourself instead of rolling into the black path like a blind deer. I don't like dandelions, Toklo complained. They're all smushed up and full of dirt, and they taste like metal and smoke. Ugh. He pawed at his nose, wishing he had a real rabbit. We can't afford to be picky, Oka said, digging through the snow with her giant claws. Food is scarce enough. You have to eat whatever we can find, or you will starve to death. Toklo snorted. Toby ate whatever he was given, and he was doing much worse than Toklo. So Toklo thought being fussy was just fine. He couldn't understand what was wrong with Toby. All he did was lie around looking sad and moaning. Toklo dug up a few dandelion stems and patted over to his brother. The damp grass under the tree tickled his paws as he nudged Toby's side. Oh, because it said cub. That's what clued you in. Gotcha. I'm wondering, so Toby and Toklo are siblings, obviously. And does it seem like Toklo likes Toby, his brother, very much? Do you think he's very nice to him? Curious about your thoughts. Toklo dug up a few dandelion stems and patted over to his brother. The damp grass under the tree tickled his paws as he nudged Toby's side. Come on, Toby, eat these, Toklo said, or else you'll be too tired to keep walking again, and Mother will probably blame me for not feeding you. Toby opened his dark brown eyes and gazed up at his brother. He pressed his front paws into the ground and lifted himself weakly up to a wobbly standing position. He leaned over and put his mouth around a dandelion, which he chewed as if it were a chunk of stone. I agree that he does not like his brother too much, and he is being rude. Toklo sighed. Toby was useless, and he had been his whole life. As far as Toklo could remember, he was too small, too tired to do anything fun. He couldn't hunt. He couldn't feed himself. He couldn't play wrestle. He couldn't even walk faster than a caterpillar. If it were just me and Mother. By the way, that sentence is, can you see that? It's in italics. That means that's what he's thinking. He didn't actually say it out loud. Toklo thought, forcing himself to eat one of the dandelions. We could run right across the mountain and chase rabbits and eat anything we wanted. His fur burned with resentment. Toby got all the attention and all the praise, but he was nothing but a burden. Toklo was the one who would grow up to be a real bear. He was the one who would take care of them all once he was big enough. Oka shambled over, sniffing the air and warily eyeing the black path. Toklo could feel the rumble under their paws that meant that another fire beast was coming. Christian, glad you could join us. You must have not believed I would be on at 7:30 this time. Okay, so there was, yes, Abby, you do have siblings. And yes, Madison, I knew that you were being mean to I knew what you meant. He was being mean to his brother. Okay. I had a question before that popped up. I'll have to come back to it. Don't forget, we're trying to figure out what that black path is and the fire beasts. So let's keep moving, she said. I think we've dug up all the dandelions here. Finally, Toklo woofed happily and broke into a run, galloping up the hill into the woods. There was much more interesting smells coming from up the mountain. In the valley where they'd always lived, the smells of the flat faces and their fire beasts covered everything else. Fire beasts, yeah, Christian, you're kind of late to the game. They're calling something fire beasts, and they're not fire dragons. This isn't this is taking place in our world today. Okay, So, Toklo, his mother said sharply, come back here. We're going this way. The black bat is the fire beast, is what you're thinking, Madison? I'm going to keep reading here. The bear cub's shoulders slumped. But mother, he whined, I want to go into the mountains and catch a goat. I'm sure I could if you let me try. Toby will never make it up that slope, Oka pointed out, and it will be too cold in the mountains for him. We have to stay low until the snow melts, when it'll be easier for him to travel up there. I just want to show you guys what I'm looking at here real quick, okay? He's sitting there with his toy. Like, play with me. Apparently he doesn't like this story. Maybe we'll get a story about dogs next time and he'll be more interested. Tokla stood up on his back legs and pawed at his ear to hide his frustration. It wasn't fair, stupid Toby. Every decision they made was all about him. Let's check the sides of the black path, Oka said. If we're lucky, one of the fire beasts might have abandoned some prey. Fine, Toklo said, sprinting ahead along the edge of the black path. He liked the feeling of leading the others, of being the one who decided where to go, even if he wasn't really in charge. Oka followed, helping Toby plod alongside her and nudging him forward every few steps with her muzzle. Toklo stayed in the shadow of the trees, keeping at least a bear's length away from the black path. He'd never seen a fire beast leave the black path before, but he thought they probably could if they wanted to. The roaring and growling from the fire beast started to hurt Toklo's ears, especially as more and more of them raced past. Toklo couldn't pick up any prey scents, and the sounds of the forest were completely drowned out. The rustling and pattering from under the snow, where mice and other tiny creatures lived, usually made his mouth water and his heart beat faster. Here, there was nothing to get him excited. He shouldn't have said stupid. The phone's almost dead. No, Abby, don't leave us. Okay. After a long time, Oka barked to catch his attention. He turned and saw what she had spotted, a deer carcass lying by the side of the black path. He hadn't noticed it because it didn't smell like prey or like any kind of food, but he followed her mother and helped her drag the dead deer off the black path and back into the trees. Christian says, don't die on me. But he followed his mother and helped her drag the dead deer off the black path and back into the trees. He sank his teeth into the flesh with a shudder, feeling the frozen meat crunch in his jaws, and dug his paws into the ground to pull it backward. As soon as they were under the tree cover, he dropped the carcass and wiped his tongue with his paws. So, are we figuring out the black path yet? Come on, my little thinkers. I know you can do it. That is disgusting, he announced. We're lucky to find any meat at all, his mother said. Here, Toby, take a bite. Dutifully, the smaller cub tugged free a piece of ragged flesh and swallowed it. Toklo tried to do the same. He bit into the deer's haunch, but it was hard to tear apart the frozen dead meat. And once he did get a mouthful, he couldn't bring himself to swallow it. He spat out the meat and sat up. I can't, he said, backing away from the carcass. It's the most horrible, awful, disgusting, dreadful thing I've ever tasted in my whole life. Toklo, Oka snapped. Stop being so fussy. By the great water spirits, are you a bear or a squirrel? I'm a bear, Toklo cried. Then eat like a bear, Oka said, or don't eat at all. See if I care. Oh, Kobe's here. What's so disgusting? Abby, what's so disgusting is that dead deer had been sitting on the black path for a while. And it was frozen. And I don't think he thinks it tastes very good, is what I'm thinking. Toklo scratched crossly at the ground. This wasn't eating like a bear. This was eating like a scavenging wolverine. A real bear wouldn't eat the long dead carcasses killed by something else. He'd be out there chasing goats and rabbits and anything else with a heartbeat, slaying them with his long claws, powerful paws, and fierce teeth. A real bear would go anywhere he pleased, and he wouldn't have to drag a useless lump of fur like Toby along behind him. Christian feels bad for the sad deer, and Noah just thinks it's plain gross. Abby thinks it's a little picky. So, Abby, should I pick up some roadkill for you tomorrow for lunch? Ooh, okay, Christian. Toby is Toklo's, the new bear we're talking about, Toklo's brother. He's very weak, and Toklo is not a big fan of Toby. Okay. Oka had only brought Toklo and Toby out of their birth den 2 moons ago. And in that, 2 moons ago, I wonder how long that would be. And that time they had wandered in circles up and down the valley, going from one feeding site to the next. At first it had seemed huge to Toklo, but now he felt bored and trapped, especially with the mountains surrounding them on all sides. They ate meat if they could find it, but mostly they had to make do with green plants, termites, and roots they could dig up with their long, straight claws. Abby's brother is watching as well. Okay. Oh, Madison says they're figuring out what black path means. I like it. Their mother always kept them close to the black path of the fire beasts, which ran through the heart of their range. There was another path that crossed it higher up the valley, but that was a silver path, harder and shinier than the black path. And the fire beasts that ran along it were much longer and larger than the regular fire beasts. Toklo's mother called them snake beasts because they ran back and forth along the narrow silver path like big roaring snakes, making strange, high-pitched whistling and hooting noises that sounded like giant birds. Ooh, I think I know what the silver path is and the snake beasts. Okay, so Abby figured out 2 moons ago would be 2 days ago. How long does it take for us to see a full moon, Abby? Christian thinks the silver beast is an owl. Okay. I like that I'm making you guys think and you're not even in school. All right. Toklo could remember the place where the 2 paths crossed. They had found a grain spill there, piles and piles of grain just lying on the ground for them to eat. He hated the noise along the silver path, but at least the grain had filled them up. He perked his ears. A long, mournful sound wailed in the distance. He recognized it, and he knew if they followed it, it would lead them to the track crossing place. Mother, he called, bounding to his paws and scrambling through the snow to her side. She looked at him wearily, pausing with her claws buried in the deer's neck. Do you remember the grain spill we found? Toklo prompted. I think we're close to where it was. I bet I could find it again. Toklo, Oka said, shaking her head. The grain will be long gone by now. I know, Toklo argued, but maybe there's been another spill. Maybe there's more to eat there. Shouldn't we at least look? He was so sick of being told he was wrong, of having to live his life limited by Toby's weakness. This was a good idea, and he was going to make his mother see that. To his surprise, Oka looked at him thoughtfully, the long brown fur rippling across her shoulders. Then she bent her muzzle to Toby, sniffed him once, and looked up at her older cub. All right, Toklo, she said, lead the way. 2 moons ago means 2 nights ago. Christian agrees with Madison. Kobe agrees as well. And Christian says about a night for some people, 8 hours. Okay. I don't know. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking full moon, which would be 2 months. You guys are right. You're paying better attention than I am. Good job. All right. So their mother always kept, Toklo's heart swelled with pride as they climbed over a low ridge and spotted the silver path crossing in a dip below them. He'd found it all on his own. He had tracked his way back to a food source just like a grown-up grizzly bear. I was pretty sure he was a grizzly bear, but I wasn't positive. When they had still been under the snow in the birth den, Oka had told them stories about her life before she had cubs. She told them about one caribou that she had tracked through the deep earth sleep snow for 3 days until it was too exhausted to continue, and she killed it. That prey had provided her with food for many days. She also spoke of the places where rocks and snow charged down the mountains, roaring like bears. She would often dig for squirrels along these paths during fish leap season. Toklo's belly rumbled at the thought of fresh squirrel meat. He shook his head, trying not to think about it. Grain would be good enough for now. Okay. I agree with Abby. Noah agrees with Abby as well. Abby's making a connection of a time when she was sick. Are you connecting to Toby because he's kind of weak and sick? You were just sick, sweetie. I bet you are thinking about that. Christian, I think Toby is a grizzly, yes, because Toklo just called himself a grizzly, and Toby's his brother, right? Okay. He wished they could hunt in the mountains, but he knew better than to ask his mother again. He'd only get the same answers he always did. Toby isn't strong enough yet. Mothers with cubs have to make do as best they can. Only adult males are strong enough to eat wherever they want. Toklo couldn't wait to be full grown. He'd kill so much prey, he'd be able to feed his mother and brother too. He glanced back at Toby, shambling along with a weaving, dizzy walk. Oka touched her muzzle gently to her younger cub's head, encouraging him forward. Why did she waste so much attention on him? Toby would never be a great hunter, not like Toklo. Has there been descriptive details, Christian? Absolutely, there has been. There's been figurative language and all kinds of stuff. Oh, descriptive details about Toby. Yes, there has. Like just now, it talked about how he was weaving as he walked, like he was dizzy. Madison thinks the silver path is a lake or a pond. And Kobe wants me to stop at 8:30. Well, I think we'll probably be stopped before that, Kobe. I'm just going to read a chapter, although, yeah, we're almost to the end of this chapter. Okay. Noah, I don't understand your question. Why adults? I don't understand what you mean by that. The smell of the grain reached Toklo's nose, and he picked up speed, running down the slope ahead of the others. When he reached a pile of the tiny yellow seeds, he bent his head and began to eat without waiting for his mother and Toby. His belly felt like an empty cave. Ooh, like an empty cave? Is it really like an empty cave? No. He didn't care that the grain tasted dry and dustier than it had the last time they were here. At least it wasn't rotten deer that had been trampled by fire beasts. Toby and Oka nosed around the pile, crunching through the scattered grain. Something rumbled under the ground, and Toklo leaned down to listen. The trembling shook his paws, and he stepped back, looking up to see one of the long snake beasts charging along the silver path. So, Madison, is there going to be a snake beast charging along a pond or a lake? The sound of its rattling paws hurt his ears, and as it went by, it let out a long, mournful wail. Toklo buried his face in his paws, batting at his ears to clear out the ringing. As the noise was fading into the distance, he heard something else. The snapping of branches under large paws. With a fierce grunt, Toklo spun around. Oh, Noah says, why adult males get to hunt? Oh, Noah, good question. So, kind of when we did our animal report books, we kind of found out that often the males are the hunters, that the different males and females have different jobs. Let's see, you did the toucan. I'm not sure if that was the same with toucans. Because they think the females are weak. Whoa, Christian, we know that's not true, right? Can I show Mr. Weekley? Kobe, I could if he was awake. I left him asleep. I agree with Kobe. Okay, you guys are funny. Now I've lost my place. Let's see. Yellow seeds. Okay. Toby and Oka nosed around the pile. Nope, I just read that. Okay. Toklo spun around. A huge male grizzly was walking toward them. It was twice Oka's size, which might be another reason why the males hunt if they're that much bigger. With a jagged scar across its flank and a wild look in its eyes. It didn't speed up when it saw them, but it kept coming straight in their direction as if it knew they couldn't fight him. So, what do you think is about ready to happen? And Christian, why are you speaking Spanish to me? Despacita need to go in and Donna Puerto Rico? Okay, Abby says fire base might be polar bears. Wait, polar bears live in the Arctic. Maybe it's a polar bear. That's a fire beast? How did it get a scar? Good question. Do you think if it got a scar, perhaps he might be a little feisty, kind of a fighter? Okay. Come on, Toklo, Oka called. It's time to go. She was already halfway up the next slope, shoving Toby along in front of her. But I was eating, he protested, clawing at the dirt. Toklo, now. He ran after her across the silver path, which stung his paws with cold sharpness. They galloped up a slope flecked with snow until they reached the edge of the woods. I'm scared of snakes too, Abby. Toklo sat down and looked back at the crossing place. The male bear was helping himself to the pile of grain, scooping it into his mouth with his paws. Toklo seethed with fury. It was not fair that they should be driven off so easily. It wasn't fair that he was so much smaller than that bear. He'd come all this way and found the grain on his own. He should get to eat it all. He wished Oka would stand up for them. Why didn't she challenge that bear down there and scare him off instead? Maybe if she fought a bit more and nagged a bit less, she wouldn't have to spend so much time worrying about finding their next meal. I have a question. Madison says, I think Toby should wait until the rest of his family gets there to eat together. And Kobe wants to know if the bear is a dad. And Christian is still speaking Spanish to me. Spacito range, despacito. Is this geography, Christian, you're trying to share with me? Okay, so here's my question. The mother bear is trying to get Toklo to move his buns. Why? Hey, Liam's brother, also known as Brady. Brody? Brady. Yeah, Brady. Where's Liam? Okay, so I think that the big grizzly bear is probably a danger to them, but Toklo is trying to argue with his mother like he knows more than his mom. I'm wondering if any of you could relate to maybe arguing with your parents when you think they're wrong and you're right. Oh, Kobe's told Brady to get off. Okay. So he glanced over at her and saw that she was pacing back and forth, growling to herself and shaking her head. Toklo padded over to the snowbank where Toby was huddled and sat down next to his brother. Oka looked pretty angry. Perhaps she really was thinking about going down there and fighting that bear. Toklo felt a prickle of excitement in his paws. Ooh, he could help her fight. He'd be happy to use his claws for something more exciting than digging in the dirt. Suddenly, Oka rounded on them. You're both skin and bones, she spat. Toklo stared at her in astonishment. It wasn't his fault he was so thin. Skin and bones, she growled again. Are they really skin and bones, by the way? Poor Liam. Brady, put him on. Okay. Living on grains and dandelions. You need fresh meat. Toklo nearly blurted out. That's what I've been saying. But he thought better of it. Given the look in his mother's eye, he could almost imagine her feeding him to his brother. She probably would one day, he thought bitterly, the way precious Toby could live, at least. Oka clawed at the snow, ripping up tufts of grass and flinging them in the air. An uneasy feeling crept through Toklo's fur. He didn't know why, but it frightened him to see her like this. What was she doing to the grass? She didn't expect him to eat it, did she? Finally, she stopped and looked at them again. With a heavy sigh, she sat down under a tree. We must go over the mountain, she said quietly. Toby and Toklo glanced at each other. This was so strange. This was strange enough that even Toby was paying attention now. Christian, I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow and see what Despacito is. Are you desperate? Abby says, Christian, stop. Oh, funny. Over the mountains, Toklo echoed, where she had always said they couldn't go because Toby wouldn't make it. There's a river over there, Oka explained, a wide river filled with salmon. That is what we should be eating, not grain and leaves. You'll starve if we stay here any longer. Toklo shivered with excitement. He didn't know why his mother looked so worried. This sounded like the best idea she'd had in ages. A great adventure, a journey over the mountains, a chance to find out what a salmon looked like and tasted like. Oka had told him about the plump, juicy fish that leaped out of the water into your mouth, begging to be eaten. At last, his mother was making the right choice, and finally, he would catch salmon like a real grizzly bear. And Christian doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's finally being honest with himself. Madison, your brother fights with your mom when he thinks he's right, but you don't ever? Yet. All right, so tomorrow night we're going to go back to reading about Kalik. And that was Kalik and Takik. They were on the ice, if you'll remember. Abby, your brother, does it, but only sometimes. That's good. All right. Do you have any questions about what we read tonight? What that noise? Which noise? I don't know. I don't know what it sounds like. All right. Does anybody have any suggestions for how we could help Liam get on, since his brother knows how but won't share that information with him? All right. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But nobody figured out what the fire beasts are or the silver path. Do you want me to tell you? All right. I will see you guys in the morning. Abby, Madison, do you want me to tell you? Now. Okay. Let's think about, they pulled a deer carcass off the black path where fire beasts go up and down the fire path or the black path. What do you feel like a fire beast might be if it's in the human world and that would be going up and down a black path? Christian has to go to bed. Bye. Okay. I'm going to tell you one. I'm going to tell you the black path. It's a road, people, which makes the fire beasts cars. Okay. All right, little dumplings. You have a good night's sleep. And please, for heaven's sakes, be ready to pay attention and participate tomorrow. You guys, that's because you guys were asleep all day. That's why you're not sleepy now. All right. Tell Dublin good night. Tell him good night, Debbie. All right. Thanks for reading with me, guys. See you tomorrow.